Hey everybody, Strone here with another first edition Friday video for you. It's Friday, August 30th, and I'm bringing you a deck that you are definitely not going to be seeing at Worlds this weekend. For those of you who maybe are unaware, World Championships are this weekend. Worlds Day 1 for first edition is tomorrow the 31st. Day 2 is September 1st, and I'm not quite sure what the TUI schedule is. I think that TUI Day 1 is on the 1st and their Day 2 is on the 2nd, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, I'm gonna go over Worlds sometime with you guys in the future, the Worlds results. We might even just do like a big old how did the entire top level competitive season look as far as decks and strategies, and what were people thinking going into these events. I have some thoughts about both North American Continentals and European Continentals already. And speaking of European Continentals, the decks, I guess plural, I'm going to kind of show you like two different versions of it, but is basically based on the deck that won European Continentals. So what I have here is, this is a deck that is based off of, it's based off the deck that Stefan Sleiby played at European Continentals. I apologize. Public decks, top decks. This one. So, what Stefan was doing was he's playing 22 dilemmas, and then he was playing the next generation Borg. He was using a whole suite of interrupts as essentially his draw engine, and then he was using that to make sure that he would have Q-stents in his hand so that he would be able so that he would be able to Q-stent and start what he was really doing early on, which would be to Q-stent for hand disruption. So basically he would first grab Klim Dokachin in order to likely take away the opponent's end of turn draw. He would then usually would grab Static Warp Bubble to make them discard a card, and from there he would choose Telepathic Alien Kidnappers or Kalto or Temporal Shifting based upon how the match was going. He had option to get Revolving Door to kind of slow the opponent down as well. And then he was using that to, along with all these dilemmas, to kind of create this wall of the opponent. Once they started attempting missions, they would lose people, and then they'd have a hard time keeping a hand in order to play more people. And they would have difficulty getting draws in order to find the people they need in order to get through the walls that were at the end of each of these combos. So that's basically how he won. Of course, as I've pointed out in the forums and so forth, Klim Dokachin definitely works. But if you are playing with AU cards in your draw deck, if you are playing with a referee tent, then you can shut down Static Warp Bubble, Telepathic Alien Kidnappers, and Temporal Shifting is dead because essentially because you are able to draw cards off the Temporal Shifting, not lose cards. And the Static Warp Bubble and Telepathic Alien Kidnappers go away with Containment Field. And the Static Warp Bubble does, I'm not sure about Telepathic Alien Kidnappers, but I know that TAC goes away for sure, is dealt with Intruder Alert, getting Intruder Force Field. So, if you have a ref tent, you can shut the Static Warp Bubble down and stuff like that. But you as the player can see what the opponent is doing. You can see whether or not they are playing with AU cards. You can see whether or not they have a ref tent. So you kind of know what you're going to be doing. And the opponent kind of has to be doing both, because if they're playing with a ref temp, but they're not playing with AU cards, then you just go for temporal shifting and you start doing that over and over again. So it's definitely a clever idea. Watching Stefan play, it was a very slow, very methodical deck, and it absolutely relied on its 22 dilemmas. That's not to say it isn't a good deck. It's just that it's going to absolutely struggle in a meta where the opponent is less interested in draws and certainly less interested in attempting missions. So if this deck goes up against Borg aggro, well then it has to spend its Q-10s grabbing ablative armors and transport inhibitors, and it's still moving slowly, and it's not really hurting that deck too much, and then you're just kind of in like a race, right? You're just kind of stuck in a race with that deck, and the other deck is kind of doing what it wants to do, and you may not be moving fast enough to be able to keep up with the opponent. Now that being said, what I have for you today are two decks that basically riff off of Stefan's idea and kind of do a similar thing at its core, while each of them kind of do some things a little bit different. So the first one I'm going to show you is this one right here. So what I happen to have just as like just kind of a moment of thought, bit of inspiration, was I posed myself the question of, after seeing the results and seeing that Peter Ludwig once again played a variation of the exact same deck as before, and say you were going into a big tournament, you were worried about like that style of deck showing up, and you're also potentially worried about Borg showing up of various different types. And so what this deck does is basically it keeps everything that Stefan was doing, although it pares it down to a more like somewhat more normal sized 120 card draw deck. So you're not, you present a little bit like a Borg deck, but you could just be a large next generation deck that's using this trick as well in various different ways. But you're playing with each of the missions that have the Federation only icon on them, and so you in some ways present like you're playing Peter Ludwig's deck, and you're actually going to just do a 2-mission win in that sense. And that, like, oh, maybe you're just playing a large deck so you can try to, use shenanigans to try to find what it is that you're trying to find through interrupts and so forth. Because you could theoretically use that sort of suite in the deck that Peter was playing. I mean, Peter was playing a deck that was itself 69 cards, and he did have a little bit, has a bunch of interrupt stuff here and keep Espanja Collectors and holodeck doors and stuff. And so theoretically one could argue to themselves that you could take Peter's deck and you could smash it together with Stefan's interrupt suite, because you can smooth as an android's bottom and find your Keep Espanja Collectors and your holodeck doors and maybe Q's tents, and you Q's tent for something important. You just go ahead and straight up Q's tent to get your Dr. Tolian Sorin and shove him through the Nexus once you encountered on your self-seed and stuff like that. So, you could just basically you present yourself like you might be playing a version of Peter's deck, when really you're playing a variation of Stefan's deck, and the opponent doesn't know what you're doing, because how they're going to see dilemmas against each of those is radically different. Because if you're playing against TNG Borg, you're doing one thing, and if you aren't playing against TNG Borg, you're definitely doing something different with your dilemmas, because TNG Borg punch through dilemmas a lot differently than pretty much every other deck out there outside of another Borg deck. So creating serious doubt in the opponent's mind becomes a definite advantage for you. Other than that, we're basically keeping Stefan's idea here with his interrupts and stuff. We basically, like I said, we toned it down, we cut it back by 50 cards, and we just kind of roll with it as it is. We took out the telepathic alien kidnappers, we took out the nightmare, we put in a little bit more offensive capability. more ways of dealing with situations offensively, so that once you get to that mid game, that late game, you are able to push forward. You can grab that queue of Borg directly out of your tent. You can grab a Galron of Borg and shoot an opponent just completely out of nowhere. You can Mazaka transformations. You have a seated Obelisk of Mazaka, so if your hand gets weird and just isn't able to go, you just reveal your Obelisk of Mazaka, you download Mazaka transformations, you get a whole bunch of new cards, and then that hopefully pushes you forward and kind of gets your engine back up and running again. But other than that, it's basically the same deck that he was running. You would still probably play it in the same way early game. You'd Q's 10 for Klendoka-chin, then you'd Q's 10 for Kelto, or Static Warp Bubble, or Temporal Shifting, and you would just go from there, and you're still relying on 22 dilemmas. I didn't put any dilemmas with this one because you would just assume that you're playing the exact same 22 that Stefan is playing. You could do some variation if you wanted to do it. If you wanted to give it some variation, you could certainly do so. Oop. Whoopsie. Well, that's weird. Alright, got there this way. Alright, so you could just basically like use these 22 dilemmas and just do your best with those 22 dilemmas. I'm not going to comment too heavily here on Stefan's choice of dilemmas because it clearly worked and he understood what it was that he was doing with them. And then that brings us to the other version of the deck. So what we're doing, oh boy, no, there we go. What we're doing with it though is we're showing ourselves to still be a Fed deck. We're still playing with missions that would say I'm either Federation, or there's the possibility that you're playing a deck that's you're playing, since you got Hostage Crisis and stuff like that, you can kind of like, maybe convince the opponent that you are playing with Cybok and crew, and 130 card draw deck. You can run this whole suite of nonsense, but you can also pair it with his downloading and stuff like that of release your pain and stuff like release this pain and stuff like that for card draws and things like of that nature. And so you're running these Fed missions that are basically straightforward, but you can also, it's definitely the case that you are still more or less presenting as a TNG Fed deck with just different choices for what it is that you want to do. Maybe you're just not as concerned about seeding a Wii or the Metrons, but you're still trying to do Fed mission specialist stuff. So you're still presenting that way. We have gone back up to about 130 cards in this version. But what we're doing with this version is we've vastly departed away from what Stefan was doing and what most TNG board decks do, and we're doing something interesting. So this is the deck that I'm going to kind of show you because it's the one that's a little bit more new. It's a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit more different. And what we're doing is we are, as the title says, doing TNG Borg, but we download. So we seed Continuing Mission, but we do not seed either Relentless, and we do not go after the Ultimate User, because we want to play with implant cards, and we want to play with downloading drones. We're going to play with Activate Subcommands, we're going to play with Awakens, we're going to use Stefan's Interrupt engine to find those cards, and that way we can have this same board deck do its thing, but do it while also having its offense move faster. Now, you lose without the Ultimate User and without Relentless seeded. You don't have the ability to like push on missions early. You can't just do like what Stefan did, and that's basically just the first 3 drones you get just go down and they start scouting, and then you can adapt right away and stuff, because you don't have Ultimate User getting you an objective. What we do instead is we Q-stand for an assimilation table, and then we put a blue drone in there, and we convert the draw to a cranial transceiver implant, and we borrow from all property Borg. And so what we can do is we can, on the first turn, we can just go, okay, we do the interrupt stuff, we hopefully activate subcommands or awaken, get ourselves a blue drone, Q-stand, assimilation table, throw the guy in the assimilation table, and then on the second turn, we will then find a card draw, we'll convert that to a cranial transceiver implant, and we will download, our consume that we want to do. One of the biggest weaknesses for TNG Borg is that it's really rough for them against persistent individuality. So we are doing like 2 planets and 1 space. So we are trying to consume resources, then we consume technology, and then finally we consume, we consume resources, and then we consume technology, and then we consume outpost, and then we consume technology, right? So that we get 2 35s and a 30, but we're doing 2 planets, hence the reason why we have the 2 neutral zone missions. We have kept the same 22% of personnel that Stefan did, and then we incorporate our offense by again having Q of Borg in the tent for us to get as we need it. We can Q's tent for the Relentless, so that later in the game you can Q-stand for the Relentless, play it, and then you can do adapt negative obstructions on the same turn. But we have access to more personnel because we've been downloading personnel. We also threw in a little bit of tech, so we do have an eliminate starship that we can just randomly pull out and shoot an opponent who tries to cross our bow. We can assimilate species. We have a Borg data node that we can use to peek at the top card of our deck on the off chance that we have a red drone or something red on the top, and then we can try to assimilate species with our assimilation table. We have assimilate counterpart, if we want it. That's basically thematic. I threw it in there just because it's a fun thematic thing. If you randomly can do it for 30 points with a random 6 skilled guy, who knows? I don't know. At the very least, it gives you an excuse to battle your opponent and maybe take some people away. So, which kind of goes in keeping with what we're trying to do here, because again, we're doing 22 dilemmas. But this time we've changed things up. Since we're not seeding Relentless, and this time we're not seeding the copy of Obelisk of Mazaka, what we are instead doing is we're seeding Strategic Base and Let Me Help. Strategic Base is to get us 3 cards with Consume Outpost, and of course Let Me Help allows us to get access and enhance our dilemmas that are gender specific. So then our hope is that maybe with a relocation of 2 males, we could get 1 out in the open for an assimilate counterpart near us. You just never know. Or the assimilate species or whatever it is that we want to do, just for the funsies of it, doesn't matter. But it takes those people away, is what it does, hopefully. So we've changed the dilemmas up a little bit here to this suite. And that's pretty much the deck. We'll just go ahead and take a look at it in action. So I've set up against, kind of a Alpha Quadrant Dominion Cardassian deck here. It's something it's got a mission suite where it's the sort of thing where if you're playing against other Alpha Quadrant deck, this is maybe kind of how missions might come out. This version, since we are trying to mess with the opponent a little bit, we are maybe a little bit more concerned with interlacing. We are also assuming that our opponent might want to, they'll read that we are a Fed 2 mission win deck early, and they might try to interlace us to slow us down. So we assume then we're not going to be able to just play in our own little sandbox. So here's where their missions are. So let's go over the dilemmas. In a situation like this, we can feel confident that they're going to be starting kind of in the Cardassian region. So we can take and just do 5 4-card combos, and then we can stick a 2-card combo at the other end of the space line here, because opponent's probably never going to see it. So we seed that there. Opponent, then that's 1 planet mission, and then they have 2 more planet missions. So we do have to put our planet combos here, which is fine. So for planet combos, we have a kill 4 dudes, and then it goes, and then whatever, and then force a ship there that is staffed and is not at their homeworld, and hopefully kills a couple of people. We follow that up with a hard to pass defrosted menace, and we finish on a medical crisis here. And then at Cardassia, we have a Hanonian Landial to basically say you can't just redshirt Cardassia. Followed up with a Den of Neuroparasites to kill some dudes, like half of the dudes they needed for the Landial. And then a Males of Interest Plague ship will then send 2 males over to here, and then get we'll then get rid of a medical to help us set up for medical crisis, and then of course that pairs well with the medical crisis we have next door. At the space mission that's here in the Cardassia region, we're going to qualify them with a persistent individuality. Then they would need to just randomly know that they need to bring 3 honor with them. Not likely, but possible. But then we set them up for killing an engineer and needing 2 more engineer. They will have had to bring an engineer here, and then maybe it dies to here. And even if they get through, then it dies here. And then we've got the quantum leap. So, and since this is in the area where we expect to start, we do have the option of possibly like hitting them with like a Galron of Borg as well. So. If we randomly have our Galron of Borg. One thing we may want to do is we may want to put Galron of Borg into the Q's tent and maybe move like the stone knives out. But that's kind of up to who's ever playing and what you expect to see, what you expect to do. And then over here we've got 2 space missions. So one of them will get a space combo, one of them will get a dual combo. So we're putting the space combo here, and it's a Galaxies Impure into Rules, into Persistent, into another Quantum Leap. And then here we've got a dual combo of Galaxy into the Love Interest, into a Love Interest, into Misinterpreted History. So in case we were wrong, although really, I think I'd want to switch that, because it's more likely that the opponent might get over to here, in which case we want them to send their love interest people back over to us over here. Okay, and that's kind of the dilemma strategy we're going with here, and that's kind of a dilemma strategy that you would go with against most opponents. You'd kind of try to identify where they're going, where they're going to start, and you're going to put your nastiest stuff in that area. If it really looks like there's a mission or 2 that your opponent's not going to do, you can take another combo down to like 3, and you can make a 5-card combo somewhere to really make that mission like hard to impossible as well. Okay. So we're just going to run through a few turns here, just to kind of show what we're doing. So, none and shuffle. None and shuffle. And then shuffle, I did randomly determine that I'm going first. Alright, so Again, oh sorry, I failed to mention we have Kevin Uxbridge's in this version because we want the ability to like nuke something of our choice. We don't want to necessarily have it in hand at the moment we need it. What we want to do is we want to like nuke if an opponent's got like an event-based draw engine, you know, such as Duck Blind, Spirits, Habit of Disappearing, things of that nature. So this opponent doesn't have any of that. But they do have a treaty, but the treaty is not nullifiable, so... but we could just nuke the all-consuming evil to make that, make that easier, but we'll hold on to it in case we need it. We did get our Q's tent, so what we're going to do is we'll go free play this blue drone, which gets us a card draw. We get the A activate, so we don't need to Q's tent for it. So then we are just going to Q's tent for the Klim Dokachin, same as Stefan would do. And let's go ahead and beyond the subatomic and call interrupt. Cool. Let's just go ahead and nano probe that subatomic, call interrupt. That's an awaken, which is good. And then we can just go ahead, since we haven't downloaded anybody this turn, we will just go ahead and download a drone. We got our blue drone. Distribution node we don't need yet. Lower decks is something that we want at some point. Let's just get the guy that downloads redirected effort, even though we have him in hand. And then we could just download redirected effort directly into play so that we don't risk losing it at some point. This would be the problem with playing a deck like this. Here we go, redirected effort. And then we can just simply end the turn. Alright, that's going to allow us to kind of cycle this stuff if we don't want it. Alright, so unfortunately we didn't really get what we wanted, so this draw is not exactly awesome. Opponent has their turn. Let's say that they play like 2-3 personnel and then they don't get to draw a card. Go to our turn, free play, get this a draw. Let's immediately play that to get beyond the subatomic. Actually, no. Let's get the Q's tent. Oh, that's removed from the game. We'll Q's tent now for an assimilation table into hand, but we are going to activate subcommands. And we're going to download some drones. It's going to help us thin the deck out and help us start moving the ship. So, let's go with this drone. And I like... this drone because it gets the lower decks. So that's blue and red. And As far as like green is concerned, I don't know. Probably this guy, I guess. If we ever draw a counterpart, it's more about his skills, I think. So we get these dudes into play. And then we're able to move our ship if we want to, but we don't. Alright. And then we just simply end the turn, unfortunately. Opponent has their turn 2. They once again don't get to draw a card at the end of turn. They're not attempting yet. We go to our turn. So we'll just play an assimilation table. And then we're going to send this to the bottom of the deck. And we're going to use it to download a cranial transceiver implant. Onto our blue drone, who we put into the table before we do that, and then we can use that to download an objective, so we get the resources one. And of course we target here. And then unfortunately, we've really just stalled out. This is an unfortunate draw. But we'll begin scouting. M113 creature. I mean, this is terrible because it'll just kill our... See, this is the problem now. Is that it definitely... It basically just nukes our cranial transceiver implant guy. If they want to do that, they certainly can. We put it on him, because if he dies, then he goes back into the deck. So let's just say that's what happens. So he dies, he goes back into the deck, and then this gets discarded, unfortunately. We have the objective that we want in play, so it's not a problem. Then we continue on. We hit rock people, and unfortunately we don't have that. Alright, end of turn, they get to kill again. I mean, they probably want to kill our other blue drone, right? Let's just say, though, that they want to kill... that they know what's coming here, so they actually kill him, because I think that's what they're setting up for. They want to kill the science, so they'll kill the science, right? And then that goes back underneath. End of turn, we can download distribution node. Where is the distribution node? There is the distribution node. Alright. Okay. And that's our end of turn draw. Opponent has their turn. Let's say that they actually decide they're going to... They looked here with their... with their science lab, so they know that's a bad idea. So they'll just go here in order to see what they can do. So they get their card draws, they hit that, someone dies, and Bob's your uncle. Alright. Alright, and we go to our turn, we just play a Borg Vinculum, and we send this guy. We discard him in order to gain exobiology on everybody just to cure this and stop losing people. And then we end the turn and we draw. Again, this is like worst case scenario for this deck. I mean, this is like stone cold the worst possible draw that I've had with this deck. And then we pass the turn, goes to the opponent. So then they're going to go in with more people and beat that. And then they're going to lose some people to that. And then they're going to lose the rest of their people to this. Cool. We'll do this on the opponent's turn. Oh, there we go. Finally we get something going here. Alright, pass this to our turn. Let's Paler Toff this and play it. And then we're going to not quite sure if we want to call personnel or if we want to call doorway. I think we want to just call personnel. We're getting this all out of the way. There we go. Alright. That's all removed. We play him for free and draw a card. I mean, it's getting a little bit better. Alright, we can use redirected effort. We're going to cycle this to the bottom of the deck to draw a card. Oh, sorry, we played a Borg Vinculum as our card play, I guess. Sorry. Alright, so we can beat this dilemma because we can just call geology. Yeah, we'll send him. We'll just discard him and name geology then with distribution node. And we continue scouting, so then we beat that. And then we hit medical crisis. Randomly select a medical personnel. They're all sharing it, so it's randomly select. And they all, whatever. We're actually going to beat this with these guys because no matter who gets stopped, distribution node basically means that we have 2 bio and 2 medical left. So it doesn't matter, we're going to beat it, and then we're going to encounter Kirk's glasses. Goes on the mission. One dude stopped. Two dudes beam up. And then this illustrates why we don't care about Relentless too much, because adapts didn't really help us here, and we don't complete the normal Borg scouting rules is we complete scouting at the end of turn anyway, and so now all we need to do is just staff the damn ship. That's all we need to do. And then the moment we beam up and staff the ship is the moment we complete scouting here. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to basically go to end of turn and we draw a card. Okay. And then opponent has their turn. They play a couple of dudes. They beam down. They see what's here and they bounce off of that. And they don't draw again, maybe. And then we, on their turn, we do this. We knew that was coming. Oh, that's good. And then this is once each turn. Or no, it's once every turn. So then what we can do... Oh, we actually have another copy of this. Who cares? So we go to our turn. We'll do this first. Before we do anything else. Once again, get everything. What we really needed was a Paler Toff, not the nanoprobe. So let's play him for free and draw a card. Let's do this. Because we still have the version that's in here, and we have more copies of that than anything. We could beyond the subatomic. No, wait, we're gonna just card play. Wait, do we have a green drone? We don't have a green drone, do we? Yeah, we're gonna have to do this. We're gonna call Doorway. We're getting a lot of garbage out of the way. Unfortunately, we hit one of our things we need. There it is, very next card. Those go away. We're going to Doorway for activate subcommands. We're going to play activate subcommands. Wait, we're going to Q-Stent for that, but then we're going to nanoprobe it back into our hand, and then we're going to activate subcommands as our card play. We'll do this correctly. Let's have our green drone once again be a copy of him, and our blue drone be the guy that shuffles back into the deck, and our red drone, I suppose, be another copy of her. Well, we need another copy of this guy, I think. I suspect. So, all right. So we get all of them into play. This was discarded here. All right. So then we instantly, the moment we do that, have staffing. So then this is complete in our archaeology, who we had already in play, but it doesn't matter. Instantly acquires the glasses, which immediately play on table, which allows us to get any card back that we want to get, or exchange any card we want to get. So we're going to just exchange this extra copy of the Borg Vinculum to get back the cranial transceiver implant. And all of our blue drones now have all of these skills, so let's keep that in mind. We can cycle a card from hand. Let's cycle this Kevin Uxbridge to the bottom of the deck to draw a card. Cool. Oh wait, we Q's tented. Never mind, we wouldn't do that. We would not do that. We would not bother doing that. We would not bother doing that. So then we need to fly somewhere. We need the card draws and stuff like that on the next turn. So let's fly 2, 4, 8. Let's fly to Cardassia and look threatening. And then that puts us within striking distance of either this mission or this mission. And then end of turn we don't draw. And the opponent has their turn. Alright. For all intents and purposes, not quite sure what the opponent's probably doing, but at the very least we're probably keeping up with them. So even if they're able to come up with the stuff that they need for this one, let's assume that they do. Let's assume that they don't. Let's assume they're taking additional time here, although they would have the ability to dial a skill. It's just a question of whether or not they're able to dial enough skills. I mean, medical and 2 biology isn't necessarily easy for this deck. So let's just say they spend another turn doing some stuff, and then it goes to our turn. So we can just free play him to draw a card. Let's card play this again. Before we do anything else, let's get our consume outpost going, because that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna consume outpost. We lost one of them, so we need to get the other one into play. So we consume outpost. That draws us 3 cards. Cool. And then now let's cycle the Kevin Uxbridge for a card draw. And we still don't have an adapt of any kind. So I think we're okay. And then we'll just go to here and begin scouting. Oh, this is supposed to be on the bottom of the deck. I don't know why I have 2 of them. Okie dokie. So another one of those. We have 2 different exobiologies. So once again, they're going to kill the guy with the cranial transceiver implant, and we're just going to cure it then immediately. And then Temptations of the Flesh hits us. So we bounce off of that because we don't have any way of beating it. So then what we're going to do is we are going to exchange a card from hand. We're going to exchange one of these Q's 10s we no longer care about. We'll exchange it for the cranial transceiver implant, so we can just play that next turn. And then we're going to play a Q's 10, and we're going to get the Borg data node. Yeah, if it wasn't clear, we just beamed everybody down because we don't care. We would have also just sent stone knives and we would have stone knived it, and obviously like the table stays on the ship, and we guess would have left one blue drone behind to activate it, I guess. Oh, we would have left behind the blue drone that was holding that. So these people are on the planet, and the ship's just kind of there right now. So okay. Yeah, the blue drone that was holding it would have been one of these guys again. So they would have shuffled into the deck. And then obviously we're still skill sharing the exobiology, so we would have beat that, and then we bounce off of that, and then we Q's tent and get the data node, and then Bob's your uncle, opponent has their turn. Let's say they finally beat this. They beat it, they score their points, and then they fly over here. I mean, they know what's coming here. So let's assume that they kill and they get lucky, and then we Ankari spirits and we like shut down their ship. Alright, play passes to us. I mean, we have to be able to beat this, so we play a Borg data node. Play a Borg data node, and then we Q's tent and grab the static warp bubble, just because. And then we will download and adapt. It was the next stupid card. So once again, we'll just have this time though, we're going to put it on this blue drone and keep him separated. Oh wait, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, we keep him separated because we've got the stone knives. That's what we're doing. Alright, so Vinculum, the Borg data node, the assimilation table, these are all on the ship with our blue drone. The rest of these guys scout. Again, we adapt it. When we download the adapt. And then we hit friendly fire. We definitely don't have that. But scouting is complete at the end of turn. So someone dies at random. Oh, look at that, it's him. But scouting is going to be complete at the end of turn. And so then we're going to be able to do our nonsense on the next turn. So then we don't draw, and then the opponent has their turn. They're still struggling with people. What says that they just go ahead and attempt anyway. They just lose an engineer and they don't have 2 engineer. Which seems like the most likely result. Alright, passes to our turn. We're going to just go ahead and cranial transceiver implant. We nanoprobe resuscitate this guy back into play. which draws us a card. We can Beyond the Subatomic for an interrupt. Oh gosh. Terrible. Let's redirected effort this to draw a card. That's good, I guess. So then we beam up. We complete our objective. This goes back out of play. We score the 35 points. Nothing to acquire. We do have staffing because there's our green drone. And now unfortunately we have to go to space. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to here, or we go all the way back to here. 2, 6, 8. That's 10. We can't get to it. So let's use our cranial transceiver implant. We need to assimilate technology. I mean, this is probably terrible, but we'll target explore Dyson sphere and then go there, begin scouting, and there it is. We do have the escape. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's find out who lives. Oh, look at that. Oh wait, that's the wrong. Shuffle. We get to keep this consume technology. All these cards go away. Cool. We'll use the Borg data node to download another adapt negate obstruction into hand, which is why we didn't do it before. And then end of turn we draw a card. Alright, let's assume that the opponent can beat this now. And then they can't beat that, because we're just going to make their officer go away, and they definitely don't have 2 archaeology. Because we've been killing so many things. Okay. Free play, draw a card. Let's use cranial transceiver implant just to download something out of the deck. We'll just download this out of the deck. And then we will continue scouting. We're going to adapt this. Scytherians. We haven't moved. We're going to cycle this to the bottom of the deck to draw a card. We're going to Paler Toth Alien Trader and get this back. And then we are just going to go ahead and Q's tent right now and grab Q of Borg into our hand. Well, actually, let's nanoprobe resuscitate. No, let's not do that. Yeah, let's not do that. But then we are forced to move. So 6. We are forced to go to here. And then, of course, on next turn. So let's just assume that our opponent did actually, like, you know, whatever. They still couldn't beat it. We do buy ourselves, like, one more turn. And then we just play Q of Borg in order to ignore the Cytherians. We download and adapt into our hand with the data node. Well, let's nano probe the Q's tent. No, is there anything we want out of the Q's tent even? There really isn't. So heck with it. We're going to Kirk's reading glasses. The nanoprobe goes away and we get... Oh, these are removed. That one was removed because we used it. Yeah. Alright, what would we want? I mean, what even gets us anything that we would need? Oh, yeah, we can get, I mean, we could always awaken, I suppose. Any skill of choice. What's the skill that we would need? We have all of these. We have diplomacy, empathy. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything we would need. Let's just get the awaken back, why not? And then we will just play the awaken, and we will awaken a green drone. Yeah, if we're gonna get a green drone, let's get this green drone. Yep. And then I suppose we can just fly back and then we can continue scouting. Oh, in the pale moonlight. Person with integrity less than 4. We have Q of Borg, he beats it. Cool. And then literally at the end of turn, scouting is complete and we instantly, and then we score the points. Because once scouting is complete, then objective is complete because we are on a TNG Borg ship that is staffed. So assuming we were able to buy that one more turn. So again, this dilemma is not necessarily easy, and it certainly isn't easy for like this affiliation. So, and it's certainly not going to be easy for a lot of them because they have to come up with 2 archaeology that's not, you know, on an officer. So I don't know. I was also probably being a little generous with what the opponent was probably able to do elsewhere, and so I feel like it's probably pretty reasonable. But that's assuming that they even got their 2-mission win, because they're going to solve this one, and then they're going to solve this one, and they had to come up with additional bonus points. They could have got it from quite a coincidence, which they probably would have when they killed somebody. So they probably had the points already. But yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video, everybody. Feel free to leave comments below as any thoughts about the deck, whether or not like you think that, you know, like Galron of Borg should be over in the Q's tent. but I think I've proven exactly why Q of Borg is in the Q's tent. And of course, yeah. I don't know, it's an interesting thing here. That was arguably the worst possible draw that this deck could ever have, and kind of showcases exactly why it's like necessary to have the ability to like get your offense going, because yeah. So anyway, I hope you liked the video. Hope you enjoy watching, keeping an eye on how Worlds goes over these next couple of days for both 2nd edition and 1st edition and Tribbles. Good luck to all the competitors out there. I hope you guys are doing great. But I am just, you know, kind of wishing I was able to be out there, but at the same time, you know, I got a lot going on in my own life and stuff. So just good luck to everybody's out there. Hope you all have a good time at the end of the day, no matter what happens. So thanks for watching, everybody. And resistance is futile.